Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for our transitioning to the new QuickBooks integration training session. My name is Brad Zaitzoff, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Tailwind, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. And I'm sure many of you already know our main presenter today, the head trainer and all-around industry expert here at Tailwind, Lynda Clare. Hi, Lynda, you there?
I am here, Brad. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Now for just a bit of housekeeping before we get into the meat of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to all registrants in the next day or so. And while webinar attendees are on mute, if you have a question, please send us a message in the question box and we'll respond to them at the end of the presentation. You can see the question box just over there. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Lynda.
Thanks, Brad. Let me get my screen displaying here. Let me make sure we're on screen 2. There we go. Now we're on Tailwind and I have my QuickBooks up here, everyone. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for joining us for the webinar today. It should be fairly straightforward, as I'm going to outline all the steps you're going to want to take to migrate to the new sync. Let me first explain the difference in the sync tool. Since you are already a company that uses our present sync tool, you are familiar with how the items sync over. An invoice becomes a journal entry with a credit to the revenue account and a debit to your AR. Similar with invoice payments, creating a journal entry that debits your bank account and credits your AR. Same for bills and bill payments. All have been done in the past with a journal entry. However, we've heard our customers and have done away with the journal entries. Now, with the new way of syncing, when you sync an invoice, that invoice will go over to QuickBooks and be recreated in QuickBooks. So it will be invoice for invoice. It won't matter where you print the invoice from, whether Tailwind or QuickBooks, as both will have exactly the same information. When an invoice payment is sent over to QuickBooks, it will mark that invoice as paid and do away with that manual entry that you are all presently doing to mark the journal entries as paid and keeping the AR listings up to date, allowing the two softwares to completely match on AR and AP. So let's get to those details and let me provide you with all the instructions needed to migrate to this new sync. We will follow this webinar up with an email to each of you with those instructions in paper form as well. So no need to take notes, everyone. They will be sent to you right after this webinar. As you well know, if you access our support articles and videos, starting tomorrow, there will be a new link on here for syncing your data to QuickBooks with a video and all instructions needed as well. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to access our QuickBooks file. To set up the new sync, the first thing you're going to want to do is come into Accounts and Settings and ensure that you turn on the setting for custom transaction numbers. Where's my custom transaction number going? Interesting. All right, well, let me show you the screenshot here. Right here in Accounts and Settings, you should be able to activate, maybe because I've already activated my customs. Let's increase this screenshot if we can. No, I can't do that. The custom transaction numbers, let me see, maybe I can find that. Maybe that's just me being a goofball here. Company type, let's edit this. Nope. It's here it is in here somewhere, everyone, and I will certainly find it for you after class. So you want to turn on the custom transaction numbers. Once that's done, and if they don't already exist in QuickBooks, you're now going to have to create products and services to link your Tailwind revenue and expense items to. Let's have a quick look at that. So within QuickBooks, you all have a chart of accounts. That's how you were able to map your information from Tailwind into your revenue accounts, your expense accounts. Well, now, as well as having a chart of accounts, you also need to have products and services listed. So again, accessing your gear icon in QuickBooks, you can access products and services. The new sync, because it sends actual invoices into QuickBooks, needs to have the associated product or service. So you will want to create these. When you create a product or service using the new button in QuickBooks, it's a service. You now have a chance to name it. Maybe you're going to dump all of your accessorial charges into an accessorial bucket, for example. Here in the description, you will want to ensure if it's something you sell to your customers, you turn this on. If it's an expense that you pay to your vendors, untick that, and the software and QuickBooks automatically will bring up I purchased this product from a supplier. So QuickBooks needs to know that it is a service and whether it's going to be linked. In the case of an income, you can now link it to the chart of accounts you want. You have an income account right here. So accessorials go into accessorials. If I was making a freight income product, oh, that's good typing. You guys know what I'm doing. Then here, I'm going to put it into my sales income. So it's simply linking the service to an income or an expense account. When you're doing expenses, same things. This is going to access the section of your chart of accounts that has your expenses in it. Okay, so once you've got your products and services set up using this new button, let me move through the next step. You only need to fill in some required fields, like on services, the name asterisks in QuickBooks signify required items. So you can simply fill in the name, ensure that your income or expense account is correct, and you're away to the races on your services and expenses. Now, the name is the name of the product or service inside of QuickBooks. It doesn't need to match the name inside of Tailwind. What will be what displays when performing the mapping. Step 2, configuring Tailwind. So let's come back to our Tailwind product. There's my mouse. So now you need to configure your Tailwind. Coming down to the QuickBooks tool, you're all well familiar with this QuickBooks tool. Of course, you have to connect every time you're going to sync data. So by hitting the connect button, choosing the branch, if you make use of multiple branches, everyone, choosing the branch that you're syncing into, hitting the connect button to give the authority to the two softwares to talk to each other. And now when you go next, this is where the new mapping is going to take place for you. You can still choose the branch that you're going to be syncing. You can still set an earliest transaction. But now you have to map your revenue items separately. They'll all be wiped out. It's going to look to you like, let me throw a couple here into the garbage. Fuel surcharge. Great. So yours is going to appear blank, but you're going to have this create mapping area where when you click in, it's going to show you your revenue items that need to be mapped. So I can now choose FSC by mile, and I can dump that into my accessorials. Clicking add, it will continue to go. Freight by the ton is going to go into my freight service. It will go item for item until all of the items have disappeared. Okay, so now expense mapping. Again, this is going to be exactly the same. All of your items, all of the expense items that you've created in Tailwind will appear here. So let's see what that looks like. I'm just throwing one in the garbage so you can see that I get a new window, create mapping, and now I can choose 20% commission on profit. It's an expense item I use, and I'm just throwing it into an expense bucket. You, of course, will have properly labeled expense items in there. Your tax mapping should hold. If it doesn't, again, you can simply map your taxes if you're a Canadian customer, of course. And now when you go next, you will have all of the items here ready for syncing again. So because I've got this customer, XYZ Manufacturing, I can sync my customer. Nice and easy, it goes over. When I look at my vendors, I've got a new vendor there to go, so I can sync my vendor in. As I work through these headings, my items will show up for syncing, like that XYZ Manufacturing. It's going to create an invoice. What's odd? I'm not sure. Oh, I must have clicked the invoice number. My bad, everyone. Let's just sync that invoice. All right, so I'm going to sync over that invoice. Let's go look at it in QuickBooks now. So if I come to QuickBooks, go to my sales, let's go to customers and choose XYZ customer. XYZ. So now when I look at customer, I have an actual invoice in QuickBooks. It's no longer a journal entry, everyone. So that's the joy of the new sync. We've done away with the journal entries for you. Okay, so let's have a quick, let me just look at my, now of course, one recommendation here. I would strongly recommend that you make sure your AR, you run an AR listing out of QuickBooks, an AR listing out of Tailwind. Make sure they're reconciled. Make sure you know where your discrepancies are between the two reports. Let's head back over to Tailwind here for a quick minute. I'm getting some chats in. That's the instructions. That's how easy it is. But I'd like to take care of some of these questions. Mundo, nice to see you in the webinar today, Mundo. Yes, your screen will not show it yet, Mundo. We have not released it to all of your databases yet. This webinar was to explain to you what it's going to look like. And then I believe we're going with tomorrow morning. We're going to release this new sync tomorrow morning. So you guys will have to remap all of your revenue and expense items as soon as you see that new sync. All right, Brad, I am done with the instructional data, but of course, I'm sure we've got lots of questions to cover off from our attendees. So if you want to send me some more questions, Brad.
For sure. So Mundo's actually followed up. He's asking, what happens on a positive balance credit on incoming payment reconciliation? Because right now, Tailwind doesn't have the ability to assign that overpayment credit to an invoice, only creates a credit at the top level.
Mm-hmm. Completely correct, Mundo. So Kyle and I are working really hard to figure out a way to handle overpayments. We've done a ton of research and we're having a hard time realizing or understanding how QuickBooks wants to handle overpayments. At this time, Mundo, when you overpay an invoice in Tailwind, that credit invoice is going to get created, but it's not going to sync to QuickBooks. That is going to be an item that you're going to have to take care of manually in QuickBooks until such time that we can determine through QuickBooks backend how to get that credit into QuickBooks. Oh, and everyone, hang on one sec with your questions. I do have another item to cover off with you that I want to make you aware of. So you were syncing, you've been syncing all of your invoices over to QuickBooks with journal entries. Those items that you have already sent to QuickBooks, the new sync has no way of recognizing them. So you're going to have some manual entry work to do, everyone, until your AR catches up. Any invoice that was sent over with a journal entry, any bill that was sent over with a journal entry, you will not be able to match the related payment up. The payment is going to return an error to your sync window. Let me activate the sync window again, everyone, because I want to show you a new suppress button. So the any payment to an invoice that was created with a journal entry will return a sync error. It's going to tell you it can't match the record. I may have the actual error here somewhere, but let me see if I can activate it. Let me try syncing this one and see what it does. No, it sunk it. Okay, so there was a suppress button. There's a brand new red suppress button. When you have those invoice payments on your screen and they return the error, that's your notification to manually change or enter the payment in QuickBooks and then suppress the error. All right, everyone, back to questions for me.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a lot coming through at the moment. I'm assuming that there's probably going to be more tomorrow when the actual integration or the new update goes through. But let's give a couple more minutes just for a couple more seconds here for people to ask additional questions.
You bet. And I'm also going to throw up, I just want to make sure. There you go, everyone. I'm sure most of you have my email address and know how to contact me, but we're willing to help you through this transition. So don't hesitate to reach out to me by email. Any questions you might have, we will help you through this transition.
And there's obviously the chat function that's also available through the application itself.
Absolutely.
All right, got Mundo following up. He's asking, when the switch is flipped, are all orders currently built in Tailwind going to be created as an invoice in the sync, or will it be a journal entry?
When the sync is switched tomorrow, when we switch that, I need to find out from Kyle. Brad, could you open up a chat for me and send a quick message off to Kyle and ask him the actual time and date we're releasing the new sync for me, please? Thank you. Okay, so Mundo, when we do the flip the switch and you have a new sync, anything that is in the new sync, any invoice that's been posted in Tailwind and not yet sent to QuickBooks will actually be an invoice. So your old stuff that you've already sent, it's not going to convert those journal entries into invoices. They're going to remain as journal entries in QuickBooks for now. Great. Any other questions, everyone? And I sent Brad off on a chore, so there's Brad back for us. Any other questions for me, Brad?
Not at the moment. Anyone, do you have any additional questions for Lynda at this time? So Kyle says I'll probably be releasing it around noon tomorrow.
Okay, everyone.
Around
there you go.
Noon Pacific.
Noon Pacific time, everyone. We will send the release out to you. And I'm pretty sure you'll get a message through this intercom chat as well that we've released the new QuickBooks Sync.
Yeah, and there'll be the message. There'll be a video on how it all works as well, available through that chat. All right. Thanks, Mundo. All right. Looks like that's probably all we have for all the questions that we have right now. Oh, looks like we got one. Who in the support staff is able to support this integration if I have questions? Is that just going to be Lynda?
That's a great question. I have not yet had time to train the support staff on the new QuickBooks Sync. So I think for the first couple of days, yes, it's going to be me. But after that, then the support staff will be fully trained on it.
Okay. All right, folks, I think we could probably start wrapping things up. If you do have additional questions that you think of, you can respond to the invites that you saw going out, send an email over to Lynda, or again, you can send via the chat function, or even using the old-fashioned telephone, you can get on the horn as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Lynda, for presenting. And
No problem.
we look forward to getting you on this new updated system tomorrow.
You bet, everyone. It's short, it's sweet, but that's because we tried to keep the changes more in the background than on the front-facing part of the application for you.
Right on. And sorry, thank you, Mundo, for that last little note here, saying appreciating the hard work done on the project. Definitely a lot of work put in by the support team and or sorry by the dev team and Lynda taking them through it. So thank you. That is
And
appreciated.
Mundo, we appreciate your input. You were a huge driving force in moving this forward for us. So we certainly appreciate you as well, Mundo.
Right on. All right, everybody. Thank you very much, and we'll chat with you again soon. Bye
All
now.
right. Bye.